Hi, this is Arjun from Polygon, and this is 26 Questions with Arjun.
Hi Arjun, thank you so much for fitting our 26 questions into your busy schedule today.
Sure. I mean, very happy to be here and very happy to take questions from the community as well.
Let's dive straight in. How would Polygon ease the existing problems of blockchain like high volatility and market manipulations? Does your diversified risk mechanism and portfolio work in a bearish market too?
Sure. So at Polygon, what we're doing is we're building the technology to help scale Ethereum. And of course, as technology providers, like our focus is mostly on building out the technology and not necessarily the token price. So here at Polygon, it's very different from maybe some other apps or network companies where we usually never focus on price. We just focused on building out the technology. And what we feel is that if you build the right technology and you help developers and you help the community, then automatically the token price will take care of itself. So whether it's a bull market or a bear market, we usually almost never focus on the token price.
How Polygon solves pain points associated with blockchains like high gas fees and slow speeds without sacrificing on security. Are there any characteristics this multi-chain system has which is not provided by other akin ones such as Polkadot, Cosmos, Avalanche, etc.?
Sure thing. So the core Polygon chain is a hybrid plasma POS chain. So we have a proof of stake consensus and we have over 100 validators spread across the globe, and we have over $2 billion in Matic tokens staked for network security. So our network is already highly secure. And what we also do is every 256 blocks, which is we use plasma technology as well. So every 256 blocks, we will Merkle root the transactions and we will place a checkpoint on the Ethereum chain. And what that does is it ensures that all your assets are secured by Ethereum, or rather all your assets are discoverable on the Ethereum chain. So this gives you a dual layer of security, which is not just the proof of stake security, but also the security of the Ethereum network. So this is how we solve for security. And I just wanted to also quickly cover. So when you compare us with other multi-chain ecosystems, I think what's different or unique about Polygon is that we have, like, if you have to visualize the structure, we have kept Ethereum at the middle, and then we built like the scaling layer around Ethereum. And the reason we've done that is because we feel that Ethereum is the best ecosystem out there, and it has the largest number of users, the largest number of dApps, the most amount of tooling. And what we feel is that with this kind of structure, by keeping a tried and tested ecosystem like Ethereum at the middle and then building scalability around it, which sort of being EVM compatible, making it easy for developers and users, is the best way to scale compared to some other ecosystems which have infrastructures or architectures which are not tried and tested, which have faced problems, and also are based on different languages like Rust, etc., where there's again like it's difficult for developers to develop and use. So that's why I feel that we're a much easier to use platform.
A strong community not only brings interesting ideas to the project, but also attracts larger partners. So how are you planning to build this community? And is there a plan to recruit people with blockchain experience to your team?
100%, there are plans to recruit people with blockchain experience, and if you have if you feel you want to contribute to Polygon, you have the skills, so please feel free to apply, and we would love to onboard you. As far as building out the community is concerned, of course, in Web3, the community is the most important aspect of any sort of blockchain ecosystem. So we have many different communities. We have a Polygon advocates community. Then we have a Polygoons community, which has been one of the oldest communities of Polygon. And we're actively looking at hiring people to help us manage our different communities, whether it's on Telegram, on Discord, on Twitter, on Reddit. So yeah, we're continuously expanding the community, and I feel the way for us is to build great technology, continuously keep shipping, trying to continuously make the ecosystem better, and I think that will ensure that our community sort of sticks to us and sticks by us. So yeah.
In my first look at Matic, its goal was to solve the scalability problem on ETH network. But if ETH 2.0 goes live, the scalability problem is not there anymore. Is there any impact on the Matic network?
Sure. So I think even with ETH 2.0, if you look at the final roadmap of ETH 2.0, which promises 100,000 transactions per second, even at that level of scalability, you will still not be able to cater to all the demands of the network. And the reason being that if Ethereum or blockchain technology scales to the same level as that of, let's say, Android or iOS, right, which has millions of users. Now, if you imagine millions of users doing thousands of transactions a day. And if you want to imagine thousands of transactions, just imagine the number of times you click your mobile phone. So if you just do the math there, you kind of understand that even at that scalability, it's not enough. And you will always need sort of a scalability layer on top of Ethereum. So the way we imagine the future to be will be which Ethereum acts like a settlement layer, and all the scalability and all the business transactions and the logic essentially happen on a layer 2 or a scalability layer, which is on top of Ethereum. So that's why we're confident that with ETH 2.0 there will still always be a requirement for scalability.
Pump and dump schemes are becoming a major problem in the crypto space, especially. Investors' hard-earned money goes down the drain. Could you please tell us how Polygon will prevent whales manipulation and make prices appreciate and reach for the moon?
Sure. So we are a public infrastructure. So unfortunately, we also cannot protect to an extent against whale-led price manipulations. I think the most important thing here for your normal user, just like how with the stock market, before you invest in the stock, you read about the company, you will try to find out about the stock, what the company does. You have to follow the same mental model here on with dApps on sort of any ecosystem. You have to ensure that when you're investing in a token, you have to sort of check the team, check what the project's all about, whether it's legitimate or not. So a lot of the onus lies with the user, and I encourage people to do this, because with this research you will learn even more about the ecosystem. But to have a mechanism to prevent such a pump and dump scheme, like if you're building an open permissionless infrastructure, then you simply can't do this. Like there will be some bad actors. So I think people need to research more, learn more, and to sort of so that they don't get involved in such schemes and then lose money.
What's the consensus algorithms which are used by Matic Network for fast and scalable transactions? There are already many projects which work on scalability with both layer 1 and layer 2 solutions. So why would Matic Network be the best choice?
Sure thing. So the consensus mechanism for Matic or Polygon is proof of stake consensus, and we use proof of stake because it's fast, efficient, and it uses less energy as well compared to proof of work like Bitcoin. I think what makes Polygon or Matic Network unique is that, number one, it's extremely fast, right? So transactions are 2 seconds. Number two, the transactions are extremely cheap. So for example, an average transaction is something like $0.00004. So for $10, you can do over 1 million transactions. The third point, we are EVM compatible. So anybody who's used to an Ethereum ecosystem or using ERC20 tokens, ERC1155 NFTs, it's basically the same. So it's easy for developers to develop on, and at the same time, it's easy for users to use because they're using a familiar ecosystem. And I think last but not the least, that Polygon has a huge amount of, has a very big support system for developers to develop, amazing experiences for users. So we provide developers all kinds of help, like whether it's with investors, whether it's with grants, whether it's with discovering the questions, being there for the community. So I think there are a lot of things which are unique about Polygon, which make it like a very, very compelling platform to develop on, for developers and users. And also, we are basically, I would say, one of the largest ecosystems out there as well, with a high degree of composability, whether it's DeFi, NFT, or whatever have you. So yeah.
Your white paper mentions poor user experience of dApps as one of the problems for decentralized project. Matic decided to make it better to be part of many centralized counterparts. Therefore, I would like to know what is the current status of that, and is that secured or not?
Definitely. So poor UX was the main reason why we founded Polygon or Matic Network at the time. Simply because the thing is that even if you go to, in the world today, if you go to developed countries or to developing countries or third world countries, almost everybody has access to smartphones or some sort of mobile phone. So people are already used to a certain kind of digital experience where they click something on the phone, something happens. So if you're building blockchain technology, you need to give users the same kind of experience, which they're already used to. If your experience is not as good, or if not better, then you will not get adoption. So what we kind of realized is that you need to build infrastructure, blockchain infrastructure, which is fast, inexpensive to use, and at the same time very easy and intuitive for users and developers. And to a large extent, I would say we've been successful. Right? We have over, I think, close to now 1,000 dApps live on our platform. We're doing over 6 million transactions a day. We have about $10 billion of liquidity on our network. And as far as security is concerned, we've got like multiple audits. Our code is open source. And at the same time, like I told you, the dual security mechanism of proof of stake and Ethereum and checkpointing to Ethereum ensures that our ecosystem stays very secure.
Nearly 80% of investors focused only on the short-term price of a token rather than understanding the project's true value. Can you tell us the motivations and benefits for investors to keep?
So I think so. It's like this, right? So if you want to invest in any project for the long term, right? So it's so important to understand the project's fundamentals and the problem it's trying to solve, right? So one thing about Polygon or Matic was that we wanted to solve a very specific scalability problem, and what we felt is that if you can solve scalability, then you have a clear path to mass adoption. And the second most important thing which you need to look for, apart from whether the goal or of the team is worthy, is also the fact that does the team have this sort of reputation of shipping products or making good on their promises. Like for example, if a project is said they will do something by X and X date, do they actually do it? Do they actually deliver and deploy? So this is another very important aspect. And the third most important aspect is like how well does how does the community look like? Right? Is the community welcoming, opening? Is it supportive, or is it like a toxic kind of community? So I think when you look at these 3-4 factors, you kind of understand whether a token is like a short-term token or a long-term token, right? And for me, I always feel that anybody, if you want to invest, it's always best to focus on a long-term strategy versus like a short-term flip strategy. Because in the short term, there could be small things like within the market, some FUD news or something like that, which could affect the price and not show and suppress the actual value of the project. So for the long term, if a project has a legitimate goal, it ships products, makes good on its promises, and has a good community, then you know that this is a long-term bet, and this will do well in the long term. So yeah.
Can there be congestion during checkpoint exits if traffic is too high and acts as a bottleneck for scalability? Have you tested this scenario and how do you avoid it?
Sure. So we have tested this scenario. So there are a couple of ways of avoiding it. One is to sort of give some extra reward to, for example, the block producers or sort of the consensus validators, so that they with high gas fees, they basically put a transaction on Ethereum. That's one option. The second option is that you roll the checkpoint, right? So you are doing a checkpoint every 256 blocks. If you can then do it every 512 blocks, right? And thereby you can sort of tide over that period of time where the congestion is super high, and thereby optimize for sort of the checkpoint transition. So there are ways of solving it. We've modeled different scenarios. So now we're very confident that even with high congestion, etc., we will still be able to do checkpoints. It might take a little bit more time, but we've developed those mechanisms where checkpoints will not fail, and that there will always be a checkpoint regardless of congestion. So, yeah.
Can you integrate a feature or features that you like best for the platform so that it can compete with other competitors? What are you most confident about for your platform?
Sure thing. So I think the feature which I like the most about Polygon is that it's very inexpensive to use, right? And I'll tell you why that is important. Because for people to even use or try blockchain technology, if you want to do it with Ethereum, for example, right? Even to do simple transactions, you have to spend $3 to $5. If you want to swap like Uniswap or something, you have to spend $50, $80, depending on network congestion. So even just to try the system, to do basic transactions, it costs so much of money that it just dissuades people from wanting to try blockchain technology. With Polygon, even with 50 cents, you can come, experience the ecosystem, and gain that confidence in blockchain technology. Which is why I feel that what we built at Polygon is very compelling, because it allows a new user who's never used blockchain before to come with minimal cost and experience the ecosystem and gain that confidence, and then become like a blockchain user. Then go and tell his friends and family that you should use blockchain, you should use these kind of decentralized apps. So this is for me the best feature of Polygon, that we're able to keep costs so low that you can do gaming at scale, you can do metaverses, you can do all of those kind of things which you simply cannot do on other networks. And to answer the second part of the question, like how for example, we are thinking about this, right? Like why is our ecosystem better, and how sort of this feature is unique, is because even if you look at any other kind of scalability solution, whether it's whether it's Arbitrum, Optimism, or any of these new ones, even there the average cost of a transaction is between $2 to $11, right? With a $2 to $11 cost, you cannot do gaming, right? You cannot do NFTs at scale. There are certain things you simply cannot do because the cost just does not allow it. Which is why I feel that compared to all the other ecosystems out there, we've created something which is very compelling. And this is what I'm most confident about when I say that for certain use cases like gaming, and for certain use cases like NFTs, or if you're doing anything with like NFT plus DeFi, like if you're not using Polygon, I don't know how you're going to get scalability. So that's one of the features which I'm really confident about our network, that we're just a very perfect fit for certain types of applications. Yeah.
First of all, I love Polygon and everything it's doing, and I'm excited to hear what's coming in the next few months. When will the DAO be launched, and when is Polygon implementing its own EIP 1559? And
Right.
I'm also very loving all the action happening at Polygon. Every day I see bullish news.
Oh, that's great. So great to always talk to someone who's enjoying using our network. I think so. There were two main questions which I had to cover. One was the EIP 1559. That should be coming soon. So we did like a community kind of a discussion on that, and what the outcome we received was that this is something we should do, and it's something which the community wants. With respect to the DAO, this is also a part of the strategy of Polygon, that we want to do like sort of a progressive decentralization, where currently we are very decentralized as a project, but still there are certain decisions which are taken by the core founders and by people like me. What we want to do is, as time progresses, more and more decisions should be taken by the community. So one of the initiatives we've come up with is with a DeFi DAO. So we're setting up a DeFi DAO, which is sort of, and this DAO and its community members will then shape the future of the DeFi ecosystem of Polygon. Similarly, we want to do some things like that for NFT. And once like these DAOs are set up and this ecosystem expands, that's when we can look at like completely decentralizing Polygon, and maybe having like a different kind of DAO structure where all of the token holders can essentially guide the future of the project and sort of become custodians of Polygon. So we are going to start doing this now. DeFi DAO will be set up very soon, probably by next week. And as the years progress, as possibly we go into 2022 and 2023, we will continuously keep decentralizing all and more functions of our network to the point where it's a completely community governed project.
What are the specific business models that your project is interested in helping? DApps, STO market, on-ramps, gaming, gambling, banking, lending, finance, or leverage trading?
So I think all of these are something which are of interest to us. So the way I look at the ecosystem generally, like when you talked about a lot of this DeFi related ecosystem building, is that to build any DeFi ecosystem, you first need to have the basic Legos, like borrowing and lending. Like if people can borrow and leverage and sort of lend money, that's where leverage comes from, right? That's when, and once you have leverage, then you can look at options, derivatives, futures. So all the basic building blocks of DeFi are already present on Polygon with Aave, Curve, Balancer, and all the big tier one DApps. So I expect to see a lot of DeFi innovation with the different kinds of, let's say, money market instruments come into DeFi, like the ones you talked about in your question. Also on the NFT and gaming side, we are seeing a lot of innovation. So now we are seeing this metaverse concept, which is a combination of NFT, gaming, and DeFi, like where you can earn money also, like play to earn, and then like with what many apps are successfully doing now. So I expect what I feel is the future will be something which is a combination of all of this. So metaverse is one representation of what the future might be. But the future definitely will be this combination of NFTs, gaming, and DeFi, where a user is immersed in a world and he can do all of these things. And this, I believe, will be the ultimate sort of kind of future, where everything in a way is gamified and focused towards, sort of compensating people for their time they're spending, and sort of extending this play to earn concept into like different boundaries. So that's kind of what I see for our ecosystem, and like a lot of interesting things to follow.
COVID-19 has a bad impact in almost every sector. So as a crypto project, how did it affect you? How have you and your team done the work in the pandemic?
Sure thing. So I think it was quite a shock for everybody in the world, once the pandemic took hold. For us, I think it just forced us to work remotely. And what we realized over a period of time is that, by working remotely, we were able to still maintain the level of effectiveness as an organization, which we did before. And what was an added incentive is that this allowed our developers, our team members, etc., to essentially be flexible with where they could work from, right? So now we encourage our employees to travel, to do different things, and then still to work, but also live their lives and do those things. Like no longer are you tied to an office. So I feel that by working remotely, it's led to the development of a work culture, which I feel is very future focused and very in line with what Web3 actually is, which is a decentralized construct. So our teams are also now very decentralized, working remotely, just like the blockchain ecosystem. So yeah.
Is Polygon a 100% community token? If yes, how can the community contribute to the progress of Polygon? Do you have a governance model? Is there an ambassador or bug bounty or contest we can assist in so as to enable further adoption?
Sure thing. So Polygon is definitely a community-owned project. We have many different sort of communities, like I talked about earlier. Like we have a Polygon advocates community, which sort of is helping us build out this community of people of a very small number of people who essentially will be working with the core Polygon team closely in different aspects. Also, as far as the governance model is concerned, so currently the Polygon project does not have a set governance model. We did that purposely because we wanted to see the evolution of different governance models and implement which is the best one. So now that you have projects like big projects like Compound, Aave, Curve, etc., which have deployed governance like Sushi, from them we're able to learn how to do governance properly, how we can create the best form of governance so that that our ecosystem continues to grow and flourish. So as time progresses, we will be coming out with the details on how we plan to do decentralization. Like I talked about how we are setting up a DeFi DAO, etc. So this is as far as our plans on decentralization are concerned. It's going to be done in a progressive manner. As far as the community token is concerned, of course, it's a community token. More details on this will be revealed in I would say maybe about next 6 to 9 months, where we will talk about how we will start the transition towards decentralization and what will be done first and things like that. So all of those details will be shared. And if you would like to be involved with the Polygon community, then of course I encourage you to follow us on Twitter, be a part of our Discord channel, interact with us. You can join one of our communities, whether it's Polygon advocates, Polygoons, and in whatever way we can, if you can help us support our ecosystem, we'll be very happy to have you and support you in your goals as well. So.
Could you please explain the main differences between the two solutions that are currently live on your platform, Matic POS chain and Matic Plasma?
Sure thing. So there is only one chain, which is the Polygon hybrid Plasma POS chain. The two mechanisms which you mentioned, which is Plasma or POS, is sort of the other two ways you can sort of exit the network. Right. So when you have tokens on Polygon, there are two types of tokens. One is the Plasma token and one is the POS token. And when you are exiting, let's say so for example, if you're a token on Ethereum, you can enter the Polygon network as a Plasma token or as a POS token. There's really no difference there. The difference comes when you try to exit. So when you're trying to exit the network from Polygon to Ethereum, if you have a Plasma token, then you have a 7-day period before you can exit your token. And that's because of the way Plasma technology is structured, that there is a 7-day withdrawal period. With proof of stake, which is POS token, if your token is a POS token, you can exit it from the network within 20 or 30 minutes. So Plasma tokens use the Plasma framework, while the POS tokens use the security of our proof of stake network with 100 validators, which is extremely secure. So for all practical purposes, I always tell people that you should use the POS token, and almost all the tokens on Polygon are POS. The only Plasma token is the Matic token, simply because when we created Polygon, there was no POS bridge. Similarly, like how when Ether was created in Ethereum, there was no ERC20 token standard. Like that came later. So which is why I think Polygon is the only Matic is the only Plasma token. Every other token is POS and leverages the security of our decentralized network.
Vast majority of crypto projects are built just for the sole purpose of amassing wealth for themselves. So I want to know the value you aim to add to the crypto industry that will bring greater abundance to the industry.
For sure thing. No, I definitely do agree that many projects do seem to be built just for enriching like a certain set of people. I feel like Polygon, we have a much larger mission in mind. Like I was describing earlier, like our mission is mass adoption of blockchain. And when you work backwards from that goal, like for example, okay, you need mass adoption. How does that happen? When you work backwards, you kind of realize that you need to make blockchain technology fast and easy to access. You need to make it cheap. You need to make it scalable. And so that is why all of those things we are doing, like all of the technology we are building, or all of the things we are doing on the business side, everything is aimed towards mass adoption. Like how do we create infrastructure which hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people can use, just like how millions of people use Android on their phones or iOS on their phones. We want to make it that easy and that intuitive, just like how you can pick up a mobile phone, know instinctively where to click, what to do, and within maybe a few hours you can use it. Similarly, we want the same for blockchain technology. So we have a very big mission and a very long mandate. And like I told you, we've never bothered about token price. Like our focus has always been adoption. If you do adoption right, everything else will be taken care of. So that's kind of how we look at our goals. and that's why like I feel that the problem we've chosen to solve is a worthy problem. It's just something, it's a goal worth fighting for, and that's kind of what keeps us motivated. So that's sort of our stance on what we're trying to solve as a network.
What is Polygon's plan for the second half of 2021?
So I think we'll be talking a lot more about our ZK roadmap. So we've already acquired like a zero knowledge roll-up company, Hermes, which is possibly I think the ecosystem's first sort of, you could say, acquisition, token acquisition. And in many ways, we've sort of written the rules of how it has to be done. But there are many other acquisitions we have also done, and we plan to talk about them and talk about what we are doing in the zero knowledge space, both on zero knowledge technology and ZK rollups. I think some of the other things which will also be happening is you will see Polygon do more interesting things in NFT and gaming through our Polygon Studios vehicle. So we've set up a fund, etc., and all of this to invest in like high growth Web 2 to Web 3 kind of projects. You'll also see a lot more interesting things happen in the DeFi space with decentralization and creation of the DeFi DAO. So there are many things which we are doing here at Polygon. And so stay tuned for the updates and follow us on Twitter, where we will be posting much of this news.
What is your status regarding the audit of your project and security mechanisms to protect and assure the participants of the ecosystem?
Sure thing. So we've got our network bridges and all of our network components. We've had them audited by I think 5 or 6 different companies. So there've been multiple audits on Polygon's infrastructure. So that's why we're very confident that it's secure, and also it is like till now it's to the test of time, where we're doing millions of transactions on a daily basis without sort of any sort of issues or the blockchain stopping or anything like that. So this is kind of what what I see at Polygon is that we've been able to develop like very, like I said, very compelling and very very scalable infrastructure.
There's a mention that token burning consists of a manual burning mechanism for special events and when necessary. So can you tell us a little bit more about the mechanics of this combustion? What is the total supply of Matic in circulation?
So I think many of these details, I would encourage you to check out a CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko. You can see like the total details of the tokens in circulation, the total number of tokens minted, etc. And as far as token burning is concerned, so like I said, like the only I think burning mechanism we have in mind is the EIP 1559, which was a way to generally improve the transactions on the network. We've not done any sort of manual burning or anything like that as of now. I don't think we have any such plans also in the future. So I think token burning is something which has to be very carefully considered as a technique. A lot of projects do it to pump their token price, but like I said, if you're like us and if you're looking long term, when you're looking at a 2025, 2030 vision, then these kind of mechanisms maybe are not the best. And better token economics is a better approach towards solving this for the long term versus trying these kind of burning mechanisms. So I think EIP 1559 is the only one we've really taken seriously so far.
Okay, last question. Can you tell us what differences exist in terms of profitability, responsibilities, and rights of the 3 types of roles in Matic Network? That is, guarantors, liquidity providers, and cover buyers. Has your smart contract been audited? Has it been audited by foreign companies?
Right. So as far as audits, I think I kind of covered that in the previous question. So we've got 4 or 5 different audits by many different companies to ensure that we have the highest security. So definitely there's a very high level of trust and security in our network. As far as the 3 roles are concerned, so of course for us, like when I look at guarantors, like immediately what comes to my mind are delegators and our nodes, right? So we have over $2 billion in sort of Matic tokens delegated to our networks, and that gives the network a very high degree of unparalleled security. Considering that we even with 5x or 6x this amount or 10x this amount of liquidity, our network would still have better sort of would have very high security. As far as liquidity providers are concerned, clearly, of course, like for a DeFi ecosystem, you need liquidity. A lot of liquidity providers have joined the Polygon network simply because a lot of techniques like auto compounding or using even like different kinds of arbing bots, etc. Like all of this is only possible on Polygon because the costs are so low. You could never do something like that on Ethereum. So a lot of retail users, a lot of liquidity providers have sort of joined our network. And when I say joined our network, they brought their liquidity onto our network because it's more efficient, it's faster. And as far as cover buyers are concerned, of course, like for me, for us, when I look at mass adoption, like the retail audience is the most important audience. Like at Polygon, we're not very concerned with the whales, who have huge amounts of liquidity. Because if you're only concerned about the whales, then you're running a centralized network. It's just like a Web2 company. Then you're only worried about big investors. Our focus is on the retail user, and that's why a fast and a cheap network appeals to like a retail user. And that's like I would say 99% of the audience. The whales are less than 1%. So the way I see it is that the cover buyers are like what are very interesting for our ecosystem, and we hope to have more and more retail users, more and more general public, come and use our network and experience Polygon.
All right. Thank you so much for answering the 20 questions from the community, Arjun.
Of course, thank you for having me, and I had a great time talking to the community as well.
Now it's your turn to ask our fans 6 questions. Do you have the 6 questions ready, Arjun?
I do have the questions ready. So let me go with those questions. Sure. All right. So question number 1 is that how can Polygon build a larger community? So that's something which I would love the community to tell me. Question number 2 is that what can we do to serve the community better? Like what kind of content? What would you like to see? Question number 3 is how can Polygon support developers in a better manner? Like what can we do to improve our support to developers? Question number 4 would be what kind of projects would you like to see built on Polygon? So we have a pretty large ecosystem, but we'd like to know what the community would like to see built on Polygon. Another question which I have is, which is your favorite D app on Polygon? So I'm very interested to know, which are the community's favorite D apps. And the last question I had is that if you can tell us 2 good things and 2 bad things about Polygon. So I think this would sort of help us understand how we can improve our network. So those are the questions I had.
Awesome session. Thank you for the questions. We hope you guys liked the interview session we had with Arjun. For fans whose questions are selected, please claim your rewards as per the instructions in the description box below. For those who want to participate and win Matic tokens, simply answer the 6 questions that Arjun had asked. Comment your answers in the comment section below and we will pick 6 lucky winners. Thank you so much for coming on to our show, Arjun. Till the next time, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Bye!
Bye.